Good day, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Nigerian in Focus show. My name is Bukola Adimula, and I'll be your host for today. Today with me are three interesting guests, and to my left is...
My own name is Mr. Blackson Bayewunmi, Country Director, Royal Commonwealth Society Nigeria Branch, and the Chairman Nigeria Conversation. Over the years, I've been actively engaged in promoting citizenship participation, governance, and partnership between the citizens and government. We have had a lot of engagements. We call it Nigeria Conversation in different parts of the world in collaboration with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Nigeria and diaspora in Europe, North America, Africa, and Asia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Blackson.
Thank you.
My name is Evelyn Dan Epele. I am a policy analyst and communications researcher at Baobab Consulting. Baobab is an Africa-focused social impact firm offering services like intercultural programming, and we do a lot of Africa-focused work, so Pan-African work. I also work as a journalist at Captain TV, where I carry out research for news analysis and policy analysis. And I am a student at the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, class of 2023.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, my name is Solomon Okidera. I'm the co-founder Digital Rights Lawyers Initiative, DRLI. DRLI is a not-for-profit organization that focuses on promotion and protection of digital rights. Now, so we work at the intersection of human rights and technology, particularly focusing on rights like your privacy, your personal data, your access to public information, and your online expression. Then, of course, we, in delivering our services to the people, we actually use four models. We use litigation, advocacy, research, and training, so you can call them labs.
Thank you so much. It seems we have a lot of researchers here. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on this show. Our topic for today that we'll be discussing in this episode is the Ministerial nominees in focus. I mean, a few weeks ago, the president of this country submitted about 48 nominees for the ministerial roles. And we want to have a discussion around their background, their experience, and what impact we think these particular nominees will have on the government and also in general on the country. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us again. I'll start with you, Mr. Blackson. What is your opinion generally about the nominees? What do you feel about the 48 nominees that was selected or their names submitted by the Nigeria president?
Essentially, Nigeria Constitution provides that each state of the federation should be represented in the Federal Executive Council. And that is, we have 36 states of the federation. But president is the visionary, is the leader of the country. He has his own vision, agenda, and what to achieve. And he has a game plan on how to achieve it. So essentially, from our perspective, it's not only about the numbers of the number, maybe 48 or 30 or 20, but what they are able to achieve. Just like a coach, if you're playing football, you have a game plan, 2-3, 2-4-4, 3, this, you know, how they so he knows what he wants to achieve, and I believe he needs some key people to work with him, he knows how to get them. So it's too early for me to say this is too much or this is not too much, but along the way we're able to assess them, appraise them, and see if they are too much. But essentially, like I said, it's not the number of ministers that what are they going to achieve. If we have more people to achieve, if we need to get 48 ministers to achieve more, so it will be fine. But if we have 4 or 5 ministers and they are not achieving anything, it doesn't make any sense. So it's the product, the outcome, the performance that determines, not the number, from our perspective.
Okay, thank you so much. And from your angle, Evelyn, what do you think about the screening process and the nomination for the ministerial role?
At a personal level, I sort of had expectation that we're going to see something fresh, something vibrant, a little shift in our political landscape. But when we look at the list now, there are so many people that we already know. So whether we screen them or we don't screen them, there are people who we already know their competence, their capacity, and their character. And I don't know that I can expect anything new from certain people who have already been in the system. at least in the last 8 years, and they were maybe not as ministers, but in their other functions as well. And I'll say the screening process for me was rather bland. We had a lot of bow and goes. I don't know, but that's my word. The key word there is that it was bland for me.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks so much. Mr. Solomon, I will just ask you, I mean, it's 48, and according to news or report, it's like the highest so far. I think 5 or 6 times, 5 more minister compared to the last administration. So do you think it's necessary for us to have that 48? What is your opinion about that?
Okay, so quite frankly, actually stemming from the foundation led by Mr. Blackson, that look, this is all about a team that actually has set of objectives and goals to achieve. So the first thing we need to understand is that the Constitution, in section 14, subsection 3, makes a provision that the constitution or composition of the cabinet for the government of the federation shall reflect the federal character, of the nation. So that actually set a basic foundation of at least 36 ministers. Now, the position is that in actually bringing that to life, the president, in his wisdom, may now have to see that, look, we will need more than this. We will need a particular, in fact, for some other reason, the president can decide that he needs a minister who may actually be affiliated to a ministry, not necessarily heading a ministry. Now, it depends on how he wants to constitute his cabinet, but the most important thing is for him to deliver the job. I know your mind, and the minds of most Nigerians will go to the issue of cutting down on cost of governance. But wait a minute. Now, is it actually the ministers that are actually, taking so much of our public funds? We saw what happened at the National Assembly a couple of days ago, where the Senate president actually, whether a slip of tongue or whatever you want to call it, talked about token being paid into the account of legislators. So for me, I think the number 48, it should not be a threat to cutting down on cost of governance. If there is actually delivery of dividends of democracy to Nigerians don't bother.
Thank you so much for that. I mean, that is one issue that Nigerians actually have. The 48 number looks much, and knowing the fact that there are a lot of issues that average Nigerians are facing, so they feel as if the 48 is kind of will increase the cost of government for us. And as a lawyer, I will still come back to you, Mr. Solomon. So what are the prerequisites for selecting or nominating a person for the ministerial role? Is it that the president can just pick anybody for that role, or is there a particular quality that the person will have to be qualified for the role? Okay,
so section 147 of the Constitution actually makes provision for qualifications of ministers. And the exciting thing is that the president has the discretion to nominate some persons or any persons to the Senate to the National Assembly, for the appointment of the office of Minister of the Government of the Federation. Now, some things came up when many of us will get bothered awful times and say, look, we do not have portfolios attached to ministerial nominees. But the Constitution does not even make that requirement. What the Constitution says that you must be a minister we must have ministers of the government of the federation. Now, the president, in his own discretion, now according to section 148, can now appoint a particular minister to head a particular agency, a particular ministry or department or section. In fact, the Constitution uses the word department in that section 148. Now, but going for that, there's a requirement that for a person to be appointed as minister or nominated must be qualified to contest as a member of House of Representatives. Now, if any person for whatever reason is not qualified or is prevented to contest as a member of House of Representatives, the person cannot be such nominated. For example, no matter how brilliant, how precocious, how amazing a person is, if a person is less than the age of 17, it cannot be a minister of the Federal Republic. Because that's the law. So that person has to be. Then, of course, I actually made mention of section 14, subsection 3, because section 147 subjects such nomination to section 14, subsection 3, that must reflect federal character. However, the Constitution does not say for you to be such appointed, you must have to lead a ministry or department. You must have a particular qualification. The only portfolio that the Constitution specifically provides for is that of the office of the Minister of Justice. And the position of Section 150 is clear as to that. So the person has to be a legal practitioner because the person will also be Chief Law Officer to the Federal Government of Nigeria. So that is the only office that requires a technical expertise from the point of view of the Constitution. But other person, in fact, the president can choose to appoint a pharmacist as Minister of Health if he believes he has the capacity to deliver. I'm speaking from the point of view of the Constitution. Of course, I know that in practice, I've never imagined a situation where we have an accountant as Minister of Health. I'm sure Mr. Blackson is there, he can tell us that there's no such, even though the Constitution does not say it has to be a medical doctor to head the Ministry of Health. So, but then the only one that the Constitution requires special knowledge or technical expertise is that of the office of the Minister of Justice.
You said the Constitution will not make any requirements specific that they have to be this. I mean, maybe that's why we just have Minister of Education from somebody that is not like an expert
educationist.
In that field.
When you look at all of these offices, like I said, I'm sure Mr. Blackson and Evelyn will be able to even comment on that. The most important requirement here is capacity to lead, to administer, a sense of a vision. Because those, at that level, even the Minister of Health. Now, you will agree with me that no Minister of Health has ever been conducting ward round at the Attorney General Hospital, administering medication to patients. And how many of even our ministers of justice are they going to court day in, day out to represent the government? Even while the office of the Attorney General of the Federation sues and is sued on behalf of the government, the reality is that that ministry has lawyers that work, in it, and that they go to court on behalf of the minister. So what I'm saying in essence is that I think more important is capacity to deliver, to lead people, and that's very important. I mean, when everyone was talking earlier, she said many persons identify the current president as a person who is skilled in assembling a performing team. Well, whether that is right or wrong, the most important thing is that the job of the leader, including that of the minister, is to identify performers, put them on their toes, and enable them with the resources to perform.
Thank you so much.
I was waiting for him to finish because he mentioned capacity. At the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, we have a framework for which we measure what we consider to be basic skills for a leader or anyone who is, a public office holder in the governing space, which is capacity, competence, and character. And we would come back to discussing even character, but I want to go back, and honestly, I want to say this for the first time publicly, that I must study the law. I must get myself a law degree. I don't know how that's going to happen or where, but I want to go back to school to read the law, because if I'm listening to him, you're going to be saying, oh, wow, this is interesting. He's quoting section 6, chapter 6, section 148 of the Nigerian Constitution. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'm just nodding my head. But one of the things that I heard him talk about is the discretion of the president. Now, as an individual, one of the things that I do, and I don't know that that's the right way to do it, but one of the things that I do is I do not take the things that people say to me and make inferences about what people have said. I watch actions. And not only do I watch actions over time that have now formed a pattern. Because you can't argue with patterns. If I tell you that I'm an honest person, that's just a statement. If I carry out an honest act, that's one act. But if I'm honest over a 30-year period, then you can confidently say that I am an honest person. So that's why I always look in the direction of patterns. So I thank you so much for telling us about the law and the Constitution. But I want us to look at some of the actions that have happened over the past weeks. Speaking of discretion, that the Constitution says that it is the discretion of the president to appoint whoever as a minister to whatever ministry, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the personal and political biases that come with that discretion. So at your discretion, is the discretion of the president now, from the ministerial list, if you look at the list, is the discretion of the president, does it reflect competence, capacity, and character? Does the discretion of the president reflect personal or political biases? I think that those are some of the ways in which I want to look at this. So before the ministerial list was released, and if we all want to be honest, there are people who, without them informing us that they were going to be ministers, me here, I knew that they were going to be ministers. I could write their name on a list. Why? Because we can look through the personal and political biases and the personal and political alignments of the times. And it's going to be strange for anyone to say, oh no, we didn't know that XYZ was going to be a minister. Yes, there were a few surprises here and there. But even before the ministerial list came out, I want to speak specifically about my governor, who, of course, I can speak well of him, S1E2 of Rivers State. There were conversations before the ministerial list was released about whether or not he was going to make that list. I'm sure that was a very mainstream conversation that a lot of us had. And when the list came out, personally, I wasn't shocked to see that my governor is now going in as a minister. So I want us to, yes, we're paying attention to the Constitution, and we all should respect the Constitution and what the Constitution says. But when I'm defining what discretion means in Chapter 6, in Section 6, Chapter 148 of the Constitution, I still see that discretion is tilted towards the personal and political ideology of the president. And whether or not that is done on the basis of competence, it will tell over time from the performance of these ministers, how he came up with that. I respect the actions that the president is taking, and I'm one of those people who are giving the benefit of the doubt, mostly because he seems more like a person who doesn't talk much. I don't know him personally, and I can't really speak for what his character is, but he doesn't seem like a person who talks much. So when you don't talk much, I would like to also see action, and these are some of the actions he has taken. So we only have to wait now to see if, like you said, is this a performative team? The only way we can know if this is a performative team is to do another podcast in a year and talk about their performance.
Thank you so much for the addition. Mr. Blackson.
Thank you very much. We need to understand that appointing a minister goes through a lot of procedure. We are just looking at it from the final output. You should understand that a president from a particular political party, you represent a particular political party, and again, so you need to consider the interests of members of that political party, because we are under a democratic system. At the same time, we should understand that we have 36 governors, and so those people that are selected are not just we have state governors. Many people have input in the final nomination by the president. So those are what we are just seeing as the nominees are the final selection by the president, because I think each state nominate three of their best, 3 candidates to the president for consideration. Essentially, all of them, they will be subject to security clearance. You understand? They will be subject to security clearance because they are coming as the minister of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So appointing a minister, we need to look at constitution, what's the constitutional provisions, and I believe the minimum qualification to hold any public office, even the office of the president of Nigeria, is a school cert. It's not even specified, maybe school cert pass or fail, just for you to attain a school cert. And I believe all the nominees must have gone through secondary school education. I'm talking from the perspective of constitution, what the constitution, and I believe there's age. I believe based on what Mr. Solomon said, I think the age for contest for House of Rep, I think it's 30 or 25 or something. 25 or so. None of them is less than 25.
Yeah.
So when we look at it from the constitutional perspective, they have the minimum qualification and they are above the minimum age. You understand? So so that means those nominees that are nominated by the president, they fulfill the constitutional requirements. That is the basic one.
This is an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to you, Solomon. we've talked about the Constitution, we've talked about the requirement of the Constitution for the ministerial role. But from your angle, the 48 candidates, do you think they are balanced? Did they represent everybody, maybe each state? And also, do you think from your angle as a lawyer, looking at it strategically, and as a researcher, do you think we need more politicians for this role or more technocrats, people that are expert in that particular field?
Okay, so I think quite frankly, I will actually start with the last limb of the view, and of course, I will also take some blocks from the foundation of Mr. Blackson actually laid for me, which is talking about the fact that ministers actually have supervisor. You know, when you look at it strictly. Now, one of the reasons why you need a minister to not be from the ministry is because it's a man who is coming from outside to say, guys, we're ready to do this job and deliver. So it is not, what has been, it is what we need to do. I have the mandate of the Mr. President to deliver, to coordinate this ministry, to deliver on the mandate of the President. Now, so for me, I think when you are looking at the issue of competence, like I said, now there is no how we can actually do away with the competence of each minister. It's very important. Now, and aside the fact that the Constitution said, look, the AG, the minister of Justice has to be a legal practitioner. Now, like I said, I don't think it is ever possible for us to have a minister of health that would not be a professional in the health field. So, and when we look at it, from one ministry to the other, we realize that quite a number of them have actually had experience in such ministry or with matters under the supervision of such ministry. Then looking at the 48 of them, one of the things I would say, let me quickly bring up this view. I think to an extent, this particular government did something. We have currently about 4 of the approved nominees, 4 or 5, that are under the age of 40. I'm not sure we have ever had that much. And I think about 3 of them are women. So for me, I think that's actually quite inclusive to a very large extent. That's number one. Number two, looking at it, okay, do we need more politicians or more technocrats? One thing is clear. I don't know wherever we emerge Nigerian president for the next 50 years, we will still have a large number of politicians represented in the cabinet. You know why? These are the guys who work for the emergence of the president. These are the guys who put their local structure in place for the president to emerge. So they have stake in the government. Right. So the only thing that we need to ensure is that there's balancing in representation. And you see, sometimes why we need some of them is that some of them have demonstrated the boldness, the courage, the willpower to take decisions for government matters. For example, we look at someone like the former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai. El-Rufai was previously FCT minister. Now, many of us saw what he did here. I mean, many of us may have so many things against him, in some regards. But when it comes to performing, when it comes to taking every stumbling block of your way, that chap stops at nothing. And you see, the pedigree speaks for him. If he's appointed to head any ministry today in this country, everybody in that ministry will sit up. Now, you cannot say that, of a technocrat who is just coming. Some technocrats, as much as they got capacity to deliver, will come here and be sure that, look, I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to make enemies. I just want to do my job. But you have a politician who say, I don't care if you are not doing your job, I will get you off my way. So sometimes you need that capacity and you need that willpower. So for me, I think we need to balance it up. We cannot do away with politicians, and we cannot just have technocrats alone.
Thank you so much for that, Solomon. Mr. Blackson, one of the complaints or one of the concerns of the Nigerians with these 48 nominees is the cost of government already. So, and these 48 nominees, ministerial nominees, are going to appoint their own aides that are still going to, eat more into the cost of government. Or what do you think are the potential issues that might arise or impact that we have on the government?
let me use the experience of the private sector. Let me use it from private sector. If you have 10 people working for you, and you are going to realize revenue of 10 billion by using 10 people, engaging 10 people to work for you. And if you increase the number of that people that you are going to engage to 20, and it will eventually increase the cost. But what you are going to gain will be like 50 billion. So despite the fact that you are spending more, for the mere fact that you are going to gain more, the net benefit, if you want to look at cost benefit analysis, the net benefit, it will be more beneficial for the government to employ more people. So it depends on, because we talk about the decision-making process, and there's what they call lag policy. You know, most of the policy for the identification lag and effect lag in management. The time that you see a particular problem, how long does it take for that problem to be solved? So by the time you have more people engaged, more hands engaged, and they're able to make a quick policy, and they're able to, everybody's given a specific role to play, and they're able to make a quick policy and maybe fasting governance. So maybe it will bring more result. So essentially, the Nigerian population is 200 million, over 200 million, and only 48 people. So I don't think 48 people out of 200 million people is too much. But what will determine that is the results. You understand? Even if they get 10 people and they're not performing, it doesn't make any sense. But even if they have 50 or 70 and they're able to take maximum advantage, they have maximum advantage of each other, that is good. I will get more results from that engagement. That will be fair for the nation. But is the outcome that determines maybe the number is large or not the number, not the number itself.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Evelyn, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning when you mentioned your governor, you mentioned something about some of these particular nominees have been in government before. So we kind of like know what they do, we know their strength, we know where they are good, we know the one that did not work. So, I mean, some of Nigerians, some concern again is that citizens should be given the right to kind of, check out these nominees too. Do you think it's feasible from your end?
Well, you're talking more now about citizens' participation and even accountability.
Yes.
So I'll go to that, but I want to step back a little, back to the law, because when he was talking, he talked about how some of the nominees have a stake in government, and that still draws me back to the point I made about the personal and political interests that align to bring about the nomination of ministers. And just like Mr. Blackson has said, and I agree, what we all should be focused on today is action. When you ask the question about whether or not we should have more politicians or more technocrats, I am personally concerning myself with more action takers. Those who are able to take action and deliver results. Whether you are a carpenter or you are a shoemaker, but you can come in, take action and give me results. That's what I want to concern myself with right now. And I think that's what we should all concern ourselves with. And to also say that when he was talking about balance, he said maybe that's okay, maybe because I'm a woman, so I'm a lot more sensitive to that. We were all promised 35% affirmative action, and from the list we see that we have nearly 19% of all the ministers are women. So I would want to use this opportunity to also say that it's still not a balanced list when we're thinking along the lines of gender. But also I want to be careful, because one of the things that I've seen with diversity, equity and inclusion initiatives is where when we open our palms to say we want 35% representation to be women, then we tend to just pick any woman and fill in that slot. We shouldn't still do that, but look out for women who also have competence, capacity and character, because I feel that there's so many of us out there. So to talk about citizens' participation now, that's what needs to happen. I want to see us move into more participatory governance, which is what has to happen. And so for me, the type of minister I want today is a minister who is data-driven, who is open to participation, who listens to people, who takes ideas from people and aggregates that before making their decision, and not necessarily just supervising and imposing their ideas on the people. So I want to see more participatory governance. And also about cost of governance is like, I'm not too worried about that. I am fully aware that this country is blessed and we're very wealthy. If we look at all of the wastes that comes from corruption and from the lack of infrastructure governance, you would know that if we can be in a country and hear that snake is swallowing how many billions, we can pay 1,000 ministers for Christ's sake. Like, I don't want to concern myself with the cost of governance because I know that we have the monies. So what I'm concerned with is action, people who will take action. And speaking of citizens, I want a ministry or a government that would allow for participatory governance, where we are driven by data insights. Listen to what the people are saying. Take all of that information and synthesize that into your decision making.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, to an extent, the citizens need to also be involved and carried along, and their opinion should be heard. Going back to Barrister Solomon, I mean, back to another law. We like the quote that you are giving us. So I just want to ask that, what is the role of the Senate? Can you like enlighten us? The role of the Senate or the House of Assembly, and the screening process, why is it necessary, and what they do there, they take a bow requirement, etc. Can you just enlighten us?
Okay, so very well. So when we look at what the Constitution provides in Section 147, it says the president would appoint nominees subject to the confirmation by the Senate, meaning the president is not almighty. Now, if the Senate does not confirm, it cannot proceed. So that creates checks and balances. No matter how so much of the confidence the president has in the nominee, the Senate actually had to confirm. Now, actually going back to Evelyn's view, which is about representation, when we look at it, we practice a representative government. So all those senators represent all of us. So what should happen is that they should be able to express our concerns at the floor of the National Assembly, our fears and our reservation. And if you look at it critically, that actually happened. As much as, yes, I saw a whole number of take a bow and go, which I have issue with. Now, because that somebody performed as a governor does not mean the person can perform as a minister, and I will tell you why. Now, when you performed as a governor in your state, that is 99.9% your case man. You are going to be, leading as a minister of the Federal Republic, 36 and FCT. Some of them don't actually know you. Some of them have reservations about your person. Do you understand? So a question should be put to you that, look, there are minorities amongst us who believe they are marginalized. So how do you want to bring them back to the larger fold of the family? So such questions should be put, that you third role, you constructed schools as a governor. It is not enough to be immune to questioning, because you are not taking up a different role. You are not going to be like a brother to over 200 million people, whereas you used to be a father to 3 million people. That's different. Now, but how I saw the real screening played out was that people's nominees' character was, were brought up. Now, this gentleman, Bosusi Jari, some of the tweets he actually made months, years ago, they were brought up on the floor of the National Assembly. And the gentleman had no choice. He realized that he actually made them, recklessly, and he had to apologize. If I got to the point that he said, if his father was alive, he would not be proud of him today, making those tweets. Now, just like you hinted, I love the fact that you hinted on character at the beginning. Now, so we need to, as they are going to be leaders, they are going to be people we should look up to. They're going to be our role models. So the character should not be negotiable. So then, of course, we talk about the competence. So for me, I think the Senate has that duty to question them. Also, we saw with Keyamo, they had to suspend Keyamo's screening, because while he was serving as a minister under the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, he was invited and he ignored them. So, they are representative and you cannot be almighty. So they had to question him, and he also had to apologize. So no matter how you look at it, I saw that screening, I saw some quality screening exercises, and I saw sharp. All of this because you have been a governor, take a bow and go. I saw some things. Including my own state. I saw my senator say, look, when you have a proud product, you subject it to scrutiny. So this is our nominee, ask him questions, he will answer you. Because I saw some senators from some states of state say, look, please, I want to hold this house to let the nominee take a bow and go. But I mean, some states say, look, please question him. We have confidence in him, in his competence, in his character, he will deliver.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much. I mean, there was a lot of bow and go, and they not just the Keramos. I think there was a particular nominee that kind of like I just took credit in his work. That
not just that, there was even one who claimed he was born in 1980 and that by 1989 he had left primary school. Even as much as Senator Abu wanted to exonerate him, we found it difficult. Even the senators there found it difficult to actually, balance up those figures. And I think that is actually some of the quality screening we should see. No matter who you are, we shouldn't just see, take a bow and go. Even if you have performed excellently as a governor, you have been a father of 2 million people. Now you want to be a brother to 280 million people. Some of them you have never met them before. Some of them believe you hate them. So questions should be put to you that, look, you have over 200 million younger ones. So how will you, exhibit inclusivity? How are you going to bring them closer to yourself? Some people believe that if you become minister, you will not construct roads leading to their villages. So what will be your response to them? So because, the perception of the government also matters. So when some states are not seeing road being constructed, and it's not because the minister hate them or the president hate them, but the planning, the budget is actually not getting to them yet. So you need to say, look, I am going to engage our people. I am going to operate an open door policy. So when you are given opportunity to say that, they will know that, okay, we can hold you to your rights. And not when you show up because you have been a governor, you can take a bow and go. It sends a message to you that, look, what would they do? Would they stop me?
Thank you so much. Even if you want to say,
the law. I like that the law is opening up now. In the beginning, I thought he was sounding a little bit politically correct, but now he's, opening up a little, and I respect him for that. Like I said before, I'm very data driven. I'm a researcher. For me, if 2 + 2 is 7, that is when I would begin to speak, because 2 + 2 everywhere in the world is 4. There is no type of permutation you want to do to make 2 + 2 7. And that's just what he's talking about now, is that it's too early, in my opinion, for us to sort of make a judgment. I want to give the president the benefit of doubt that he has put together a performative team. And the reason I'm saying that is, if we approach this in an antagonistic way, we will create room for people to underperform. And what I mean is, if we look at our ministers and catch them, group them as guilty before proving innocent, I like to do the opposite, which is to pretend that you don't have a sin and treat you as a competent person who is full of character, who has the capacity to do work. And then I want to see you, with that benefit of the doubt, perform or underperform before I make my judgment. So that's just what I want to say. And I hope that they are listening to us, and they would, one of the things I said to someone the other day is, I like people who would like to prove me wrong, and in the process of trying to prove me wrong, do right things. So if this is the case, then let that be.
Okay.
Thank you very much. 2 + 2 is not always 4. No, I'm telling you because 2 + 3 is not always 4, and 6 + 6 is not always 12. It depends on the base. When you say 2 + 2 is equal to 4, that is base 10. So when it's not base 10, when you say 2 + 2, if a student of mathematics say 6 + 6, it's not always 12. If it's base 5, it's not 12.
I'm actually interested in that because I am an engineer and I'm a mathematician. I want to know.
So 2 + 2 is not always 4. Except if it's 2 + 2 is base 10, then it's 4. You understand? There's advanced mathematics to that level that you can prove that 2 + 2 is not always 4. So talking of screening by the Senate, most of the people in the Senate, essentially all of them are politicians. All of them are politicians, and there's no way there will be a ministerial screening by the Senate that there won't be any political. And I think I took time to watch some of the screening myself. I was so interested in see how some of them are screened. Some are a little bit favored, and some are scrutinized, and some are But we should expect that. We should expect that because it's difficult to treat everybody equally.
Yeah.
Understand? But essentially, I'm so happy that most of the people that have committed maybe abuse some opportunity in the past, like Kiamo, like Bosun, were caught to order and they were able to apologize. And that's what the call check and balances. Not that because Mr. President has nominated you, you can always you can just come there and go. There's a tradition in the Senate. If you're a former senator or you are a serving senator, so they see you as part of them, and that constituency you can just take, because for you to be elected as a senator, that is, you must be a man of proven character and that, and so they allow you to take. So what has happened in the Senate, although I'll look at everything, there should be more. There are a lot of questions. As I saw Minister Boledu, Alake, all of the Erufai, several questions. I asked some of them, but soon, and I saw many of those ladies, most of these that are there, but there are some politics. We should expect to play some politics, but when we stand on average, I look was a very fine, nice on average.
Yeah.
So playing politics is not abnormal. It's not something that is unusual. It's not that
you see now, Mr. Blackson has introduced politics into mathematics, and now I won't let him rest. I will not let him rest until I see those permutations.
So, to you, Solomon, I kind of like have two in one question for you. Okay, my first question first is, we'll be talking of minister. Can you just like shed light on what the role of ministers are really in Nigeria and what the citizens should look forward to? And also, how much of public opinion should go into consultation, screening, and confinement of the ministerial role to the person or a candidate?
Okay, so pretty much, I will just only aggregate the views expressed by Mr. Blackson and Evelyn. They've actually given very brilliant insights. And that's to the extent that the roles of a minister is actually to coordinate activities of ministries, agencies, MBAs generally, to the fulfillment of furtherance of the vision of the federal government as headed by the president, with the executive in chief of the government. So basically that's what they do. So, and Mr. Blackson said something which is quite insightful to me. Many of us actually think the ministers are that powerful. I realize that a minister cannot even, many of us don't know that the minister cannot even terminate the employment of a civil servant.
No.
Some people don't know that. So they think a minister, no, it's not. It's only there to coordinate. So when it comes to exercising some powers, including the very powers, some of the permanent secretaries are even more powerful than the ministers. So what we are saying is that a minister is not one big boy somewhere. It's just a guy who is seen to have that insightful view of what the objectives or the vision of the current government is, and to help the government coordinate activities of MDAs, under its leadership. That's number one. Number two, how much of the public consultation to go into it? Now, I think what we saw this particular screening, we should expect more in 2027, and I'll tell you why. Now, this is the first time a ministerial nominee was being screened, and a senator brought out a petition that I have a petition here against you. This is the first time a ministerial nominee was being screened, and some people brought past tweets, a ministerial nominee had actually tweeted. This is the first time people began to bring out their, in the digital plans, we call it receipts. This they are bringing receipt for them.
Yeah.
So trust me, in 2027 there'll be more of that. So people will now say, okay, look, let's approach our senator, let's have the petition, and let's present it that please, we have seen this person's name. Please subject his candidacy or his nomination to scrutiny. The only thing I think the president needs to do more for us is that between the date of revealing or unveiling of the names of the nominees and the date of the screening, let us have nothing less than a week or two. So that when we realize that this person's nomination can pose a threat to our collective interest, our collective peace, our collective happiness, then we should, as citizens, be able to channel them through our representatives who are the senators. So, but like I tell you, 2027, watch out for more drama.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blackson. You have something to add?
Well, thank you very much, Barrister Yes. At least we are evolving. You know, democracy in Nigeria is evolving. We can see that last screening, because I remember last dispensation under the Ninth Assembly, there was no much create or much there was no even a suspension. See, under Kiamu, when Kiamu was being screened, there was suspension of the screening. You can just imagine. That means people that are there now, they are older. And that's the beauty of check and balance and separation of power. That's the beauty. You see, as he said, you know, there's check and balance between civil servant and public office holder. The PAMSEC is civil servant, minister is public office holder. And you don't understand, the PAMSEC is the accounting officer of the ministry. Minister cannot approve money. He can only approve projects. It has to be approved. The money has to be approved by the permanent secretary, because the permanent secretary of each ministry is the account. So just like we have a executive and legislator, we have public office holder and a civil servant. So when president comes, because those civil servants that career civil servants that work for different government, different policy, you understand? So president needs to come with his own person that is representing that ministry with his own vision. Because permanent secretary must have worked with different presidents over the years, so we even know which direction. When this president says, okay, this is what this government is for, this is what this president wants to achieve, he made them. So, and then they say, okay, this is what we have been doing in this ministry. So they will now manage the two in the process of the nation. They now take the right decision. But minister is not as, like you say, it's not as powerful. He can't sack anybody. He can't approve any money. Wow. He can't afford any money. He can't, it's just everything. If minister cannot give contract, because it has to go through Federal Executive Council for contract to be approved. You understand? He can influence one or two things as a minister. You know, so it's not as powerful as governor or under the protocol. Senator is even more important than minister under the protocol, because senator is elected, minister is appointed. Yeah. You understand? So even if there's someone that has misbehaved, I think is good, they will call him and there's oversight function. If you're a minister, senator also will still come for oversight function in your ministry. They say, how do you spend this money? Apart from what PAMSEC is doing to be the accounting officer, any state semi-committee house committee will still come out. How do you spend this? How do you do this? So minister is not just, so he's subject to National Assembly for everything. And even before you get the form has to be approved by the National Assembly, Senate committee, House committee, before you can spend the money. That's right. So it's not as powerful as what people think. It's just big name. Honorable Minister.
Honorable.
Yeah, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, back to what Solomon said, when he said, actually, we should have that 1 week. It is necessary for us to have that 1 week and for us to be able to bring out their receipt see maybe.
I want to interject to say that even the role of technology now has sort of democratized that space where we can have a marketplace of ideas online. We see that happening even rapidly. What's your proposing that should happen is already happening rapidly. The issue of Bosun happened overnight. People printed out his tweets within hours. Even the issue of Mariam Shetty, who was nominated and dropped from the nomination list. When the new APC chairman talked about that incident, he talked about how people online, he made references to the receipts that were posted online, where people questioned her capacity and character and her competence to do the work, and within 24 hours she was dropped from the list. So I think that what you're calling for is already happening, but would even happen more. The more people hold leaders accountable, the more people participate in the governance process, the more that we would have a more heated process of nomination.
Thank you so much. I mean, we cannot overemphasize the importance of citizens' engagement in governance. Because if we want that good governance, we all need to be there and we all need to participate in it. To you, Evelyn, do you think, from your angle, as a Nigerian and as a citizen of this country,
a patriotic one,
from your angle, what are the key indicators that will make you to say, oh, the minister selected by the president for this particular ministry is doing well? What are the key indicators you want to see from minister, from the newly, should I say, have they been appointed?
Yeah, well, they have been approved.
They have been sworn.
From the new approved ministers.
But for me, my key indicators would be a check of their performance after, and I'm keep talking about next year so that you can invite us here again and let us talk about whether or not, I heard him, he was passing through the corners talking about those who are constructing roads like my governor. We can then check if my governor is doing well as a minister or or not.
I mean, we've come to the end of the conversation, but just quickly from one punchline from our guests, starting with you, Solomon, the ministerial screening process and the whole nomination process, what do you think should be improved, or what do you applaud? Just one punchline, and then we'll just move to Evelyn and Mr. Blackson.
Yes, like I said earlier, applaud some qualitative screening. You know, if I'm going to mention now Keyamo, Boso Tijani, and of course, even Erufai, where a senator had to bring out a petition. They need to be scrutinized because they want to serve as elder brothers to over 200 million people. Now, but I need to see, coming in 2027, I don't want us to see take a bow and go anymore. The fellow is not serving the same office he has previously served. So we need to subject his capacity, his character, his sense of accommodating people to scrutiny. We want to see whether, as a Kanuri man, does he see an Ijaw man as his brother, as somebody who can walk into his office and ask him questions? Does he see a Yoruba man as somebody that can call him to order? So we need to see more of that.
Thank you. Quickly, Evelyn.
I want to applaud participation of all Nigerians in this process, because I definitely saw increased participation, increased observation of the political processes. And I also want to call out specifically for young people who I believe are the change makers. Let us not allow our youthful exuberance to sort of wane or even waste. Let us channel all of those energies into taking action and holding our leaders accountable.
Thank you so much, Mr. Blackson.
Well, the issue of take a bow and go should be reviewed, because they should treat every nominee fairly. If if they are going to ask one person to take, all of them should take a bow and go. But if they are going to question one, all of them should be questioned, because they are going to represent the people, and we should test their capacity. They should give them equal opportunity. Not some are preferred by take a bow and go, some are asked question. They should visit their past, and they should test their capacity and competency.
Yeah, thank you so much. We need to visit their past. I like that statement, and that's my takeaway. So thank you so much for staying with us up to now. We've officially come to the end of today's episode. And to our amazing guests, thank you so much, Mr. Blackson. Thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, Barrister Solomon. And to our live viewers, thank you so much for staying with us up to now. Until next week, see you. Bye.